right, guys, you want to call this meet? You want to go ahead and call this meeting to order?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. We'll go ahead and start out with introductions. I'm Matt Johnson. I'm with Reynolds Polymer Technology.
I'm Jim Pringle. I'm the Mesa County Safety Council Secretary. I'm also with the Local Emergency Plan Committee for Mesa County and a liaison with the National Weather Service.
Glenn Kaiser, past president.
Rich Pasher, Mesa County Sheriff's Citizens on Patrol.
Mason Klon, Mesa County Public Health and the LEPC.
Will Roush, also Mesa County Public Health.
Sonavan Kalsa, Colorado 811.
Shauna Grieger, Western Colorado Contractors Association.
Hi, Sherry Johnson from St. Mary's Injury Prevention.
Dana Wiesman, Program Coordinator, Hilltop.
Heather Condor, Mesa County Road and Bridge.
Okay, is that everybody?
And Luke is probably busy.
Yeah, he sent a message just saying he apologized for the delayed start, but he got us up and going, so that's great. Has anybody had a chance to review the minutes that Jim sent out?
Yes, I've read them and don't see any errors. So I'd make a motion to accept them as submitted.
I will second that motion, Glenn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Okay. Treasurer's report. I know Ashley is absent today. Did she send anybody a treasurer's report?
I didn't see anything. Let me double check my email.
I did take out 3 checks to her. I didn't see anything from her either, but the minutes show a balance of $5,424.01, and I have $150 from Shauna from Western Colorado Contractors Association. I actually has that check now, and I've got to thank Shauna. And I have $1,000 from St. Mary's for the general fund. 150 from Shauna was for prizes for the safety fair, I think. And then I have a $500 check from Bank of Colorado. I have copies of all these. Ashley has the checks, said she'd get them in later this week.
And Glenn, that to clarify, that $500 from Bank of Colorado is for our general fund, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Their annual contribution.
Great. Sounds like we're sitting pretty good on funding.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is the review of the 2022 Hybrid Safety Fair.
Yeah. Did anybody have a chance to look at the feedback we received so far from the teachers?
I didn't read it, Jim. Was it positive overall?
Overall, it's very positive, and I'll look it up real quick here, and we can take a look and talk about some of these responses we got. Got it right here on my phone. Oh, Glenn even made a copy, so I'm gonna have to squint. Okay.
I like to print the internet.
Yes.
Even though I'm not supposed to.
So I'll just read them off real quick, just some of the highlights here. But for the in-person safety fair at the mall, and this is teacher feedback that we received. My students were asking for water after about an hour. The drinking fountains are offline because of COVID. Maybe some small water bottles could be giveaways. So that was one. Here's the other, second one. We actually got 12 responses total for this first question from teachers. The bag situation is always tough because so many people hand out stuff. It would be nice for them to have a bag when they come in to put it in, but then they're carrying it around. Feels like a tough choice. And there was so much candy handed out. I emphasize the so because she capitalized it. Parents complained to me. I realize it's an easy prize. I just don't want my class walking around the mall eating candy for 2 hours. Here's the third response. There were a few booths that we visited where it was difficult to hear the presenters at times due to the noise of the mall, mainly the music that they play in the mall. If the locations of the booths could be optimized, that'd be great. It would also have been helpful to get students' bags when we first checked in. This would have helped give us something to carry the goodies received at each booth, which were different than the items already in the bags. And there was a lot of great stuff and brochures at each vendor. Here's a fourth comment. The gift bags at the beginning would be helpful for students to put their stickers or other grab items from booths as they go to the stations. Also, water being available. Drinking fountains were not open. Here's the fifth response. For our group, handing out the bags when we arrived in person would be helpful, as the materials in the bags was not the same as what was handed out at the booths. So the bags would provide a place for the students to gather their swag, candy, and trash. Thanks for putting this all together. And then the next 7 responses were, all of them were unanimous that they had no issues, no problems. Okay. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, what overall rating would you give the in-person safety fair? And 10, we had 10 responses there. And we had 3 8s, we had 2 9s, and 5 10s. So sounds like they thought it was very worthwhile, apparently. And then the next question we had on the feedback request was, do you have any other comments? We got 5 responses there. My kids were skeptical at first, but once we got there, they had a blast. Thanks. Number 2, the kids loved listening to the officers and emergency responders. We would love to see a career angle for some of the booths. The kids would love to hear about all the different careers. Here's a third one. Thank you so much for organizing this event and allowing us to join. We also really appreciate you providing bus transportation, as I know this would have been a barrier for many schools, groups, and participants. Thanks again. Number 4, we thank you all so much for this wonderful learning opportunity for students. What a great community event. Thank you so much. And the 5th one, the safety fair was excellent and a great learning experience for our children. Thank you for inviting us. And that one came from a homeschool organization representative. So the next question on that form was, what part of the safety fair did you like the best or enjoy the most? And first one was how good the presenters were with the students. The students love riding the bus, and it is great that it is paid for, as we don't have the budget for it. We also appreciated the variety of booths. The second response was, I love watching my students interact with the presenters. They have great information to share, and the kiddos just take it all in. So that's all for the in-person safety fair. And then for those who participate in the virtual safety fair, we only had 2 responses total. Responses to the question of, did you experience any problems or difficulties that we can fix? Neither one had any problems. One had nope and a smiley face. So that's good. Next question, what part of the online safety fair did you like the best or enjoy the most? First response, my students are younger, so they preferred the videos and read alouds, whatever a read aloud is. I think I know. And number 2, allowing my students the opportunity to re-get some information that they may have missed at the in-person event. So that was evidently a teacher or a homeschool parent that went to the safety fair and then later went the following week, participated in the virtual safety fair to reinforce the safety messaging to the children. And on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being best, what overall rating would you give the online safety fair? Both of them gave us a 10. So good job, everybody who had a part in making the safety fair a really great success. Nothing's ever going to go perfectly, okay? So, and then we had let's see here. Okay. We had 2 responses from exhibitors. We had a person that worked at the WCCA exhibit and said, thank you for having us be part of this fun and educational event. The feedback that we received has been great. The students loved the setup we decided to go with this year, as it was easier for them to go through the construction site. Adding that the teachers favored having all the similar occupations grouped together instead of scattered around them all was good. However, some teachers did mention they would like for the goodie bags to be given at the entrance of the safety fair. The reason behind it appeared to be that the kids wanted to have the bags while they went around the booths collecting items like stickers and candy. We can't wait to see what next year's safety fair will look like. Respectfully, Ulissa Velasquez. And the second one, I received this feedback at the Mesa County Local Emergency Planning Committee last week on Thursday. And it was from those that staffed the local emergency planning committee's safety fair booth, which promoted shelter in place. And all of the people that participated that were there, 3 of them were there. And one of them, he had 2 of his employees that were there, and he gave feedback for them. So for all 5, they said that it was just really good. They had positive comments. They said everything went really well. They did mention that the mornings were busier than the afternoons on both days, and that would make sense because we had more students on both mornings than the afternoons. They also said that the student groups tended to come in waves instead of a more even flow. So, we've worked on that. I don't know how much more we can do to make that even flow more even. It just happens, I guess, sometimes. Since the LEPC was somewhere in the middle, you'd have groups starting at one end or 3 different sections, towards the end of the Cabela's wing, and then towards Clock Tower, and then we'd have groups start right at the beginning at WCCA. And I guess they start working their way in, and apparently they converge right in the middle booths. Those of you who had booths in the middle, Sherry, and you might, maybe you experienced the same thing. I don't know, but I know you were one of those in the middle, not far from the local emergency planning committee's booth.
Jim, can I give a little feedback on that?
Yeah.
Our people noticed that too, and I was going to bring it up at the meeting. We noticed that staffing wise, I space it out, and I always tried to have at least 3 minimum of 3 people at our booth, and optimum was about 4 to 5. GJPD, because they are more much closer to the Grand Valley communications. Their people kind of hover and help one another. And the thing of it is we had so much to do at the law enforcement booths, both between the sheriffs and GJPD, that the kids got bound up there. I mean, it was just a literal traffic jam.
Sure.
And it's something that we may think about for next year. The cars, every kid wanted to go through a car. We had coloring, we had the wheel of the safety wheel that we had. And I guess teachers and parents got mad with us because every kid spun a wheel, they got a piece of candy. You know what I mean? We wanted to make every kid a winner.
Yeah.
It really binds up. I don't know how we could do it. I think we're gonna have to give it some thought. Maybe some of us, we who are on the committee, we become maybe the tour guides and we walk with people and move them on through. Maybe we should brief a little bit. I didn't have a chance to go around, but I know that Excel and the power company put on a pretty neat little demonstration with the electric and stuff like that. They almost had like a classroom setting. In fact, when my wife came out there, she said, I've seen cop cars. I'm going over and see an electric thing, so I don't know what to do. I mean, I take everything that they said as an honest feedback and a positive thing. But it's just, it's a nature of the beast. You know, and as far as the comment on recruiting, we figure the people are 14 years too young for us to be recruiting to get into the police academy. But we are a recruitment tool because every kid walks away saying, I want to be a cop. And I want to give one feedback story that brought tears to my eyes. We had a group from one of the parochial schools, Hill Independent Academy.
Okay,
Yeah, and or a charter school, excuse me, yeah. And there was a gal, I don't know if any of you remember, she was just a pretty little dainty gal, and she was confined to her walker. And she brought such a smile and delight to all law enforcement over there. And when she saw the Special Olympic car, she says, I want to be in Special Olympics. And I looked at her, and this is my bailiwick with the Sheriff's Department too, so I'll give it a little plug. We support and work with Special Olympics. I said, well, you can run in this thing if you want. And that gal just went bonkers, and her chaperone said, well, can you give us some more information? We want to get her in Special Olympics. And that was great. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, that was the greatest gift I got in 2 days of being out there, other than all the other kids. But you know, when you get this kind of feedback, that's the kind of stuff you want to do. So I'm appreciative of everything that was said there. Maybe we can cut the candy down, you know. I got to tell you, MCSO receives donations constantly. Companies come in and drop hundreds of bags of candy off. So every MCSO truck vehicle you see out there, we're ready for Halloween. We're ready for any giveaway, you know, any parade. We throw candy. I'm sorry, we have a generous donor, and he likes to give us candy. So it's just one of those things. We had some giveaways that were a little bit for more mature. We gave these to the teachers, and I'm giving one to each one of you guys.
Thank you.
These are the green highlighter pens. We really, oh, I missed you, buddy. And you folks will get one next meeting. I'll make sure you get one. You know, with the bags, we felt the same way too. It was our feedback because our guys were asking me, where are our bags? Because last year we had a whole bunch of MCSO bags that they could start putting their stuff in. And that was a complaint I heard from a lot of parents and chaperones and teachers, that the kids were becoming inundated. And I guess the other thing is we found out our stickers don't come off the floor too well. So it seems the MCSO ones stick the hardest, and State Patrol and GJs don't. So that's our feedback. My people were delighted, but we heard very much the same thing.
okay.
Did the fingerprinting, that's the first time we've had that in a long time.
Yeah,
Did that slow things
and you know
down?
what? That was the snag there, and the fingerprinting was the snag, and so was the game. We have a safety roulette kind of wheel.
Sure, yeah, we actually attended it.
Yeah, and the kids snag up candy, you know, and it's so consequently, we were part of the problem, and I kept on telling the people running it, I said, pick 1 or 2 kids to do it, and then every kid gets a piece of candy I said, you make a collective answer. So I had them screaming out the right answer. So we tried to expedite people, but when you get 9 kids in a patrol car, you can't get them out. You know?
Yeah. And they love it. They love getting it.
Oh, they do. They do. And I'll tell you what, it was recruitment. I had so many kids come up to me and say, I want to be a cop. I want to be a cop. I want to be a cop. And I'll tell you what, in this day and age, that's pretty good to hear.
Yeah. I will say this regarding the candy, there was only one feedback response out of 12 that there was a complaint about the candy.
Right.
The others weren't complaining about it. They just said, we need some place for our kids to put it. So I don't see a big problem with candy still. A small problem, you know, for some that don't want their kids eating candy and prior to lunch or whatever.
And
but-
you know, we made that a parent's choice when we were giving candy. If it was a
Okay.
parent or a private group, we said, can, because we walked up and said, can your little one have a piece of candy? And most parents said, yeah. So and we tried to give safe candy as far as that goes, so. Nothing they could choke on.
Yeah, if the kids, you know, I think it was helpful, and one of the, you know, to have the bags that were full of the handout items, where the kids picked them up on the way out, but because they were kind of heavy, some of them, especially the first 600 or 700 before we started running out of handout items when we were filling the bags. But, you know, it's for the kids, it's kind of, as one of the teachers alluded here, you know, it kind of gets in the way of, you know, they're dealing with all the stuff in the bags as they're walking around. And then the other thing is we had, and I'm very thankful for those construction helmets, because kids who hadn't come back to get a bag and then run back out to the exhibitor booths, they were coming to get their bags on the way out, but they had their little helmets that were filled to overflowing with
Yeah.
candy and all the other little handout things that they were given, not just stickers. Stickers weren't a big deal. It was all the other stuff that was in their booklets and that, you know, they're great booklets, and the candy's a lot of fun. If you're a kid, I mean, you just love getting candy. But they had their little helmets. They weren't wearing them. They were just loaded with all this stuff. And so it took time for them to get out, because each kid then with their helmet, when we handed them a bag, they were dumping everything out of their bag into the helmet. So there was a slowdown on the kids getting out back to the bus with that. So one of the things that Glenn and I were talking about was maybe having a little bag to give them on the way in to collect these things, you know, the small things like, you know, the fingerprinting, they have to do that at the booth. They couldn't, you know, that's just a fun thing they do, an activity. And I think that's great. It increases their interest in the message being given there when they can do something interactive like that. So they got those, and they got some booklets, and I understand how some of those it's appropriate to hand out at the booth, little booklets, and then the candy, of course. But Glenn and I were talking, maybe we should have little bags, not the bigger ones like we were using for the kids on the way out, but the little bags, and each kid would get a little bag on their way in, and then on the way out, they could get the big bag with all the, you know, the bulkier, bigger stuff.
Jim, just clarifications. I've always felt that we should give them a bag when they come in so that they can load up, because every table I saw gave something away, right? For the most part. But what did we preload? We opted at Mesa County Sheriff not to preload, because giving the badge, sticker badge, and we gave the puzzle pens this year and stuff like that. We feel it's more important when they are getting it from a representative of law enforcement. It's a little bit more significant, and that's been kind of something we've staffed with our PIO and with my supervisors, uniformed officers, and they want to give it away. You know, they really want that. So I would say, let's revisit this. We got a whole year, and let's think about it.
Yeah.
See about what the best response is. If we did that, it saves us the pre-time that we have done with the organization of getting these things preloaded. I don't know what, I really didn't look at the content of the bag. What was most of the stuff that was preloaded in the bag would be a question.
A lot of booklets.
A lot of booklets, safety books. Huh?
Small colored books.
Okay, all right,
But
so they're a good size.
Yeah.
Be as big as they have.
Yeah, so I mean, if we re-examine this, that'd be kind of a way we need to look at it. And again, like I say, it's not that we don't want to put something in ahead of time. We feel that the visit with the individual, and this year I was kind of lucky. I had more of the school resource officers out, and they were you know, we wanted them, these are their feeder schools, and so we had more interaction, and that's what they really, really, really want. So that's a little feedback. Take it for what it's worth.
Good. Yeah, the thing with why we started doing this several years ago was there was a number of organizations that said, why don't we just give them a bag on the way out? Because we're busy trying to talk to them, and if there's only one or two of us at our booth and we're talking, we don't have time to be handing stuff out.
Sure.
And if we have stuff just sitting out there, kids just grab, and we run out sooner. And I know the Weather Service, when they've been, this is just an example. They've got 3 stations there, one on tornadoes, one on lightning safety, and the other on flash flood safety. And tornadoes includes all kinds of severe weather. So we don't get very many out here, but we've got all these demos going on. And if we only had 3 people there working, we were trying to hand out stuff on top of that, and it just wasn't working at all.
Yeah, and for some, it's not conducive, I understand. But I think if we all, it gives me better. I've sat here, over 3-5 years now, you know?
Yeah.
I'd like to have a better understanding of it. I guess I kept myself intentionally in the dark about it, but we heard a lot of complaints about that stuff too. Like one teacher said, where are those bags you had the last time? They were
Yeah.
just, so she remembered we had the MCSO black bags, you know, and they were.
So that's why Glenn and I were thinking that, well, maybe we should hand them a smaller bag like those MCSO bags that you had before as they come in. And then they can haul all their candy and little things around in that. But these bigger, bulkier things, you know, the kids are always dropping stuff out. I mean, we've got all kinds of, it's not just the coloring books and that, there's all kinds of other things. Sherry, for example, they're at St. Mary's Hospital, they had some really cool things that were, I think one was a flashing light thing, blue colored, you know, that was in there, all kinds of toy type things. And
Yeah, neat.
and then, you could just tell when the kids, if they were going through the mall, instead of paying attention, they'd be digging through the bags and swinging these things around because, you know, and so that's the other reason for that. So, you know, we do need to think about this and talk about this some more, but that was our initial thought for Glenn and I thought, you know, maybe have a bag going in, a smaller one, and then on the way out in the bigger bag, which, you know, they could easily then drop a smaller bag into the bigger bag to only have to carry one bag then on the way to the bus. So just some thoughts and suggestions, but, you know, and anything else you'd like to say about that?
No, I think we did give out bags, small bags, 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
And, some of the teachers didn't like them because the kids were using them as toys when there was nothing in them to start with.
Oh.
But a lot of them liked it. It's kind of
Hey, guys, this is Shauna. Just a few things from the peanut gallery up on the screen. I had 3 things. Number one, we had a lot of angry teachers that were like, why don't they have bags up front? And so they were going to the stores closest to us and grabbing their bags. I don't care. I don't think it's going to matter if it's a small bag or a big bag. They just want something to carry around with it. And the teachers would have to be responsible for them. I do like the idea if they do not have enough people present to hand out items, to go ahead and have them put in the bag. Sherry and her team did an amazing job putting that stuff together and gathering it all for us. But for a lot of those booths that had, you know, more than 3 people there, it gave them a job. It gave them a duty to do as well with that contact with the students and handing out the candy individually. So that's our 2 cents on that one. Just moving forward, did we have a first aid station? I know the whole thing was about safety, but did we have a first aid station that was designated?
Yeah, Mesa County, Colorado Mesa University's EMT program.
Yeah.
Had a
Okay.
functioning first aid station.
Yes, they did.
I did have a teacher, and I can't remember if it was a kid had a cut finger or something like that. And it's like, oh, it's a safety fair. And I had no idea where the first aid, which one was designated as first aid. And a comment that I had earlier, if we could get a water sponsor, Ute Water, if we could get Valley Water, one of those guys, they would probably be willing to sponsor a booth to have the big bottles of water out there to change out, that we could actually refill bottles on through some kind of a method so it's safe, because I don't know if the mall's going to be opening up their drinking fountains again. And I know they're kind of sticklers about us bringing in our own stuff unless it's a promotional or anything like that, or a station. So maybe that might be an opportunity. It's a good opportunity for people to get their name on a bottle and hand out one per student. Whether the students leave it or not, it's going to be up to them. It's going to be the teachers to look after. The third comment that I had, and a lot of our contractors had this, was how we pay for this event. A lot of people were questioning, you know, how do you guys put this event on? And I told them, well, it's a lot of volunteers. It's a lot of committee effort. And I have a feeling with all the events that we've done through the years, if we even had like a $50 charge or optional charge for our booth, if you have 20 stations that pay $50 each, you already have $1,000 right there that gets put back into the safety council that we can use for other things or use for next year's. So I think even if it was an optional, I think most of our sponsors would be willing to pay that, because it's a very minimal fee to put on a big event.
That's good. That's good.
Shauna, I would agree with you, and I've been talking to Matt and Jim about us. I want to get together with them in this next year and really look at fundraising as a whole. In previous volunteer work, I worked 14 years with American Cancer, and fundraising was kind of my thing. And I think you're right about finding a water sponsor. Larry Cleaver out at Ute Water, I know him personally. He's a great guy. It is an upfront kind of thing that we could do. And I think maybe before, I like the idea. I don't think anybody would be opposed to the $50 or a nominal fee kind of thing, you know what I mean? But I think that in this community, there's untapped resources, you know, that people who would like to say, well, we're really not safety, but, you know, if we could do something like the water or some sort of supplemental thing that helps us get it. The other thing is again, looking for, you know, for that prize donor that's out there that's willing to say, you know, $3,000 a year, that's no problem. We could look at doing that. Yeah, of course, you give them a little billing and stuff like that. And it's got to be done in a professional manner. But I'd like to say, I'm willing, and I've said this to Jim, about us getting more people on board. I talked to Sherry. She's going to help me connect with Community Hospital and out in Fruta. We're going to try to make inroads with those people, you know, because I always find it odd that it's a safety fair. Why isn't every medical, you know, emergency medical group out there not having a booth? You know what I mean? And my co-partner, Brian Wright, he coordinated with Pam on the safety, and I'll bring that back. We have at the SO and stuff like that, we have what we call trauma bags ready to go. And technically, every one of our cars out there had a trauma bag that if a kid needed a Band-Aid, we could have, you know, we could have taken care of it. Sherry carries them in a purse, don't you, Sherry? Band-Aid.
I think just for our volunteers, I think they were just looking like, okay, where do we go? It was just like one little minor step, but it was one that people were asking about. But I think for the portion of actually doing an optional fee for those booths, I think instead of adding more fundraising items to our list, because I know we're all busy and we all are volunteer for different things, I think that could be a little bit of a generator right there. An easier one to go by instead of creating a new fundraiser. So that's all I had. And I know Sherry's hand's up too.
That's okay. I just had a couple things. I love the idea of water. However, I think it's going to be the same thing the same issue that we have with all of the little pieces of paper that we give the kids. It's keeping up with it. So I wondered if maybe we could do something like the disposable cones so that that way it's just tossed away and a teacher doesn't have to keep track of it. And the second thing is I heard tons of complaints about not having the sacks too. And although I understand why we do it, I think it's the right reason to do it that way, because unfortunately they're going to be left in booths. They're going to be left in all kinds of different places. And I explain that to everyone. I don't know that it's that we want to encourage them to go into all of the stores and ask for sacks, because that, if I were the manager of that store, I would be frustrated, to be perfectly honest. First and foremost, I know you're not buying anything. You're coming into my store with your 5 or 6 or maybe 8 or 10 kids who have sticky fingers from all of the candy that they've just eaten, and they're going to touch all my merchandise, and I'm still not going to benefit from that. So I think we have to come up with some sort of a plan that makes it friendly for the mall as well as friendly for the teachers. And I'm with you guys. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it looks like. Maybe the kids bring their backpack. I mean, you know, many kids walk around with their backpack on all the time. Maybe that's the answer. I'm not sure, but I'm happy that we got to do it and we had a great time.
Can I jump in here real quick? I'm hearing a lot about the bags, and I will tell you guys that in the last in-person safety fair that we did, not last year because it was online, obviously, but we did a little bit better about controlling not keeping anything at the booths to hand out and actually having it go into the bags. And I don't remember this complaint from the previous year, which would have been the actual 2020 safety fair right before the pandemic hit. The water, we may be jumping the gun a little. I like the ideas. I think it's great. But let's see what's happening next year. You know, there may be water available at the mall for the next safety fair, because, you know, we might be out of the woods with COVID by then, or it may just be endemic to where it's not as big of a deal where they're shutting everything down. So I think we should definitely examine the water as we get closer to the next safety fair. And I think one of the things we could do about the bags is maybe just do a little better about controlling it and not handing things out the booths and stressing to the parents or the teachers that they pick up the bags at the end of the safety fair. That's just my 2 cents on it, guys.
I will say that many teachers I asked them as they were exiting the safety fair, and I asked them, what do you think about the kids getting the bags on the way out, even those that had little helmets or full of candy and other booklets and things. And the teachers, majority told me, oh, it's much better if they have the bags on the way out. In fact, some of the teachers said in the past, the kids, when they've gotten the bags on the way out, they've gotten onto the bus, and by the time they got back to the school, the bus was just littered with all kinds of, you know, the backs of, you know, stickers where they peeled them off, candy wrappers, all this kind of stuff. And so some of the teachers, I don't know, maybe half dozen or so, maybe 8 of them, requested that we just give them the bags in the box, count them out, the number of students, and they would, you know, we had some volunteers, and oh, that was really great having the EMT volunteers from CMU, WCCA, but we would haul the boxes out with all the bags, and the teachers were very, very happy about that because it eliminated the mess. You know, it wouldn't happen until the kids got back to the school. And so, you know, there's that consideration as well. But yeah, there's some things we need to discuss here, but anyway, we can bring it up again at the next meeting, think about it some more between now and the April meeting. Regarding the first aid station, I think it would help, and I'd put this down as an action item for me next year on the that little safety fair map that we send out that shows where all the exhibitors are. We can designate on the map the first aid station.
Shows the restrooms, but not us.
Right, right. So we can designate like the CMU, WCCA, EMT display. we could designate them after coordinating with Pam Holder, if she's good with that, we could designate that as being our first aid station for the safety fair. One other thing I'd like to mention, I contacted Tim Leon, who is the director of security for School District 51, the week before the safety fair, and thanks for Glenn for recommending this. But because there's so many School District 51 students that come to the safety fair, we thought it would be good and reasonable to have some officers from the security of School District 51, school resource officers there for the duration of the safety fair. And lo and behold, both days we had, for the full time of the safety fair, we had school resource officers there.
At least one all the time, and then we had several that just made pass through. That was nice.
It was really good. And I mean, it was just comforting, you know, it was kind of knowing there's somebody there if there's an issue with any of the schools, you know, with the kids, or, you know, if a kid got lost, you know, somehow wandered off, you could assign that school resource officer to, you know, take charge of that situation. And again, it was really helpful to have the EMT students volunteered for us. They volunteered not only at the in-person safety fair, but also in filling the bags. What they saved us a whole half a day or more, that second day of filling the bags, when they came out in force, and we're done in no time. During the safety fair, they helped out a lot in helping to hand out bags. So instead of, you know, one kid getting a bag at a time on their way out, waiting in line, you could have, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 kids getting their handout bags on the way out and dumping their candy into the handout bags from their helmets. And so that really helped speed things up a lot when they were there. I don't think they were there in the morning of the first day, but by afternoon, it really made a huge difference that first day. And then they were there all day the second day. And we always had at least 2 available to help us. And then at times we had 3 or 4, sometimes up to 6 of these EMT students volunteering. And so they would ask Glenn or myself, you know, what do you want us to do? And we'd say, okay, here's this big group coming in. We'll take this first 30 students or whatever, 25 students and their teachers, and take them down to the Xcel Energy's natural gas safety booth way down there at that hallway next to Cabela's. And then we'd say, okay, now you take this next group of 25 students and please take them down to Xcel Energy Electric, which is way down there beyond the clock tower. And then we'd say, okay, this next group of 25 or 30, they could just go over here, start them out at WCCA. And that worked out really good, having them help out, because if one of us, if Glenn or I were not there at the booth, and then you have a big group coming in, that was kind of an issue. I know in one case, we didn't have the student volunteers available at the moment, and I had to take one of these big groups way down at one of the ends of the mall for the safety fair portion of the mall. And Glenn had to deal with everything, with all of the kids and teachers coming in and making sure they were all getting what they needed, if they needed a map or whatever. So, but I know we had some catching up to do a couple of times with trying to count how many, you know, students had come in through the front doors there. So anyway, but those volunteers were excellent. And also the volunteers of St. Mary's Hospital that we had helping to fill the bags. You know, how many did we have there, Sherry, of your nursing students that were there? What, 4 or 5 total?
Yes, and we had more CMU students by far. The EMT and paramedic students.
Yeah, so the volunteers were extremely helpful to have. You know, we can't emphasize that enough. It just made everything run so much smoother. And it was important too that Glenn and I were there, either both of us or one of us anyway, at all those times with filling the bags and also at the mall, just to make sure things were running as we knew they had to be run, because the volunteers, you know, they're just coming in cold to all of this and they don't really know exactly how everything's supposed to be done. So, but when, you know, Glenn and I were there the whole time, filling the bags, one or both of us, and then same thing at the mall, and then having the volunteers, everything ran really smoothly during those times. So just kind of recap how many students and teachers that came, and including homeschool students and teachers. Of course, we had 819 School District 51 elementary school students that were registered.
Wasn't it 900?
Or 918, I'm sorry. I said 819. 918, yeah. Which is more than we've had the previous in at least 4 years prior from School District 51. And then we had another 100 to 150 that were homeschooled students and their parents, and also private school classroom that came. So it totaled up to 1,300 over the 2-day period, which is quite a few, especially considering we only had 25 exhibitors and we normally have between 32 and 35 exhibitors. So it kept, I think, everybody that had an exhibit busier than normal than from previous years. That's what I've heard. Everybody was busier than normal. But anyway, it was a good turnout. We probably missed, I would guess, 100 to 150 that walkthroughs and some homeschool parents that, even though I sent instructions on where to enter to the homeschool groups, and we've got like 7 or 8 that I know about here in the Valley. There's always some that just come in from the various other locations. And so we're trying to keep track of them. But anyway, it was a really good turnout. The exhibitors were great. You know, I heard no complaints about anybody or anything regarding the exhibitors, only positive comments. And the exhibitors only had positive, you know, overall positive responses on being there and what they were able to do to accomplish the goal of teaching safety information to the children in a way that they would remember that and apply it to their own lives. I do have a few other things I did write down for next year, just some minor things, but I think that could be helpful for the safety fair. For the sake of time, I'll bring them up at the next meeting, because, you know, we'll want to revisit this again, especially the bags, and talk about the water situation again at the next meeting. You know, now that everybody's had time to hear everybody's thoughts and to discuss it, we can mull it over and then, you know, say, you know, at the next meeting, you know, let's look at this again. Any additional thoughts, any additional suggestions on how to best deal with these, you know, issues, these items, which are relatively minor, but still, we want to make this as good as possible for everybody that participates, for every teacher as well as the students.
I think Shauna mentioned in the chat that she went through 1,220 hard hats.
I was gonna ask her.
Okay,
And I have approximately, I haven't counted up, 100 bags left over. I've got 4 boxes and they averaged 25 bags per box. We'll probably just take those up to Plateau Valley.
okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to talk about the prizes. So we had, between teachers and homeschool parents, we had 80, 85 total. I know we had 44 classrooms from School District 51. And then we had private schools, we had the homeschools, We had also in the virtual safety fair, we had some teachers in school district 51 that only participated in the virtual. So last weekend, I had these little slips with everybody's name or their number associated with their name. And so my wife drew them out of a box, out of a bag, I guess it was. And we have like 24 or 25 teachers, full classrooms, where there were enough prizes for like for average of 25 students, which was great, including the gift cards and the money that was donated, like from WCCA and others. So that's great. 24 out of, whatever, what ended up being 52 or so classrooms, full-size classrooms, getting a prize. That's really cool. And then there was probably, because the homeschool families, there was average 2 to 3 kids per family, and there were some leftovers, like some leftover mittens, some leftover those reusable grocery bags from Mesa County Solid Waste, leftover Smoky Bear handkerchiefs. So we were able to hand out about another dozen of those for these individual homeschool families. School District 51 said they are not accepting any donations of furniture anymore. So the Hilltop that donated the 2 beanbag chairs, I was told by School District 51 admin that we can't have them as gifts for them. So they ended up going to 2 of the homeschool families that they were the first 2 that we pulled. My wife pulled the names out of the bag, and so that's where they are going. So I'm going to talk with Len, but between the 2 of us, maybe we can deliver these over the next couple of weeks. Okay, so I've got it all organized on a spreadsheet, the teachers, the prizes they've won, and their contact information and the school where they're from. And so we can do that. I don't know, Sonatum, if you want to help out, maybe deliver gift cards and say this, thanks to Colorado 811. So you can document that then yourself, but I'll provide everybody, if they want it, a list of all the teachers the schools are from and the prices they won. So I was planning on doing that. But just wanted to give you a little recap on the prizes, and that we had good responses based on that. Of course, with the feedback, we had 12, 13, 14 teachers, homeschool parents, mostly teachers. So Colorado 811 provided 2 $25 gift cards for that. And then we had all of the other stuff. And so we'll take care of that and have that all done by the time the next meeting in April that we have. And again, special thanks to all the organizations that provided prizes. I think it is a great incentive. I think it really helped out with getting feedback from the teachers as well.
And I'm really sorry, but Will and I have to take off.
Okay, well, we're just about done.
Yeah.
So you can take off as you need to.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
And
thanks for including us.
and well, now that we have your contact information,
You can bug us all the time, man. We're ready for it.
yeah, you'll be on the mailing list
Okay.
from here on out.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks, you guys. Sorry about having to leave early.
And we'll see you, well, I know we'll see one of you at least at future LEPC
Yeah.
meetings,
Yes, I have
since
plan to attend
since you're
those,
the
so-
co-chair now.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate you. Thanks, man.
No one could be happier than Horace, who has been, in that position for, well, forever.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Okay, thanks for
Thanks,
coming.
everybody.
Take care.
So let's see what else we have here. Oh, quick thing on fundraising. We just read through your messages, particularly minutes, talks about the Amazon Smile and the King Super City Market Community Rewards Program. That's another great way that our organization gets funding. And the next meeting, we can talk about something that Luke mentioned at the last meeting on having the donation link on the Safety Council's website. We need to discuss that before we can do that because there are some legal implications there. We have to cross all the T's and dot every I to make sure we're good with the state regulatory people on doing something like that. And the Safety Council trifold brochure will carry that one over to the next meeting due to time. And I do want to mention in May, we have the upcoming Safety Council board member elections on even years. It's for president, secretary, and one at-large board member. And it looks like we're going to have to add a treasurer to that as well, because Ashley, because of all her numerous responsibilities that have been stacking up, she just doesn't have time anymore to devote to what needs to be done. She said to do a good job for us. And then she has done a great job for us. But she said, you know, even with this next meeting, I won't be able to attend because of my job. So we'll add treasurer as well. So there'll be 4 board member positions we'll be voting on in May. And anything else? So Matt, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that motion, Jim.
Okay, it's 11:36. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good meeting.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next month.
Yes.